On September 12th, 2024, my friend and I were chased out of the woods by an unknown creature. For almost a year, I've researched the Kiamichi Bigfoot, and today, I learned the truth. Here is my story. I, always being interested in the subject of Bigfoot, decided to accept the SBA's invitation of an open invite hosted in November of 2023. I drove to the Kiamichi Wilderness, located in southeast Oklahoma, where quickly the terrain became very beautiful. And shortly after, I met the SBA team and other curious minds. As we set the fire ablaze and nighttime fell, I get to hear the stories of many veteran Bigfoot hunters who have heard, as well as even seen Bigfoot. And upon the falling of night, I hear howls and shouts in the distance that I cannot explain. I now begin to wonder, does a creature like the Sasquatch really exist? And if he does, trying to wrap my mind around how truly terrifying that is. The next morning, we all had coffee and discussed the day ahead. The team wanted to take us to a mountain and show us the beautiful view within the colorful and vast landscape of the Kiamichi mountain range. As we viewed the Kiamichi Wilderness, we looked forward to the night and what it had in store. Upon Brian Hewlin's arrival in the evening time at camp, he wanted to take us to Camp Hardwood, the same location he had his Bigfoot sighting. Brian Hewlin and Tim Autry will tell their stories separately to display the similarities of their stories. Okay, tell us about your first encounter with the Sasquatch.
Okay, so September 16, 2018, Tim Autry and I, after a 4-day event with an open invite, kind of like what we're doing today, we stayed an extra day, came here looking for a new place to camp because we had never been in this hardwood area.
We stayed an extra night and we decided to go check a new area in the hardwoods. Brian's like always wanted to go down there and check it out. So we went over there to check it out, and it was weird when we pulled down there. As soon as we both got out, it was real eerie.
So we parked up there with the vehicles, kind of walked down, and we were talking about wood knocks. That's what kind of got it going, and what I think they are versus what everyone else thinks they are. And most people think it's a stick or a branch or something hitting a tree. Well, I think it's either the breastplate that they tap with their finger, or possibly rocks hitting trees.
We felt like something was watching us, like something was there. And it was just, your hair on your arms were standing up, and we didn't know what was going on.
Well, we're here, and all of a sudden this doe, she comes running through us. She comes right in between us. And we thought maybe coyotes were chasing her, or something like that, maybe a bear. So we kind of got quiet and was listening.
So we started walking down this draw, and I'm looking, it's just real, and we seen real spooky, and then we seen some deer take off running. And then Brian hollered at me, goes, "Hey, come here."
And then we noticed that we kept hearing things fall, because there was none of these trees were here at that time. And things were falling on the ground, and we were trying to figure out what that was. And so we were picking things up like acorns and stuff, and the thing that sounded most similar was about 1.5 inch diameter rock. And so as we were testing that, I kind of went to my left, as Tim did, because we kept hearing them fall over here. But instead of me going to my left, I kind of glanced back to my right, and that's when I saw movement at the stump. And it was just a quick dip down like that. And so what I did is I positioned myself this way and used peripheral vision, and I saw this thing have its hands on the log and then lift its head up and stare at me. And it did that a couple times, going down and up. And I asked Tim Autry, I said, "Hey, come over here, I want to show you something." And so I'm here, and Tim is standing pretty much this close to me, within about 1.5 feet. And I said, "Tim, why don't you use your peripheral vision and look at that stump and tell me what you see."
And I walked over, and he goes, "Look right there," and behind this big burnt stump, there was something black right behind it. And he said, "Keep your eye on it. Don't take your eye off it. He's gonna run to the truck and get something." So I'm watching it, and the thing would raise up over the stump and look at, and then duck back down. And this is a big black burnt stump, and it raised back up, and it had no neck, human-like face, real hairy, and I kept my eyes on it because I was just shocked and couldn't believe what I was watching and what I saw. And then every few minutes you'd see it go like this and look around the stump.
And about that time he's looking at, we're face to face, and I'm staring just at him, and I see his whole body like just tremble. And he was like, "What the hell is that?" And I said, "Just keep watching." And he goes, "It moved again. It's looking at me." And I said, "Keep watching." And then I turned to look at it, and I saw it go down again. And he's kind of freaking out a little bit. And then at the bottom of the stump, right along the ground, I see this thing just go to the side and just look at me. And like we're locked in on each other. And then it goes back behind the stump. I see the hands move, and I hear it sliding down the hill. And then we just hear it walk away.
And it raised up. And then when Brian got back, we kept watching it, and then it just went below the stump and disappeared. So we figured it walked away. And then we didn't see it after that. And so Brian did a couple of wood knocks. We did a couple of whoops and nothing. And so he goes, "Let's get out of here." And we left, went back to camp. It was just me and him, and we talked about it the rest of the night. We called Shane, talked to him. It was wild. And right then I knew I was 95% sure that's what I saw. You know, you have that little bit of a doubt in the back of your mind, but I was 95% sure that was for sure what I saw. And then I think a couple of weeks later, or a week later, Shane and Brian, and I think Brian's son went down there, and his son went down in that bottom and stood there, and they said they couldn't even see him or hear him. So this thing, every bit, had to be 8 foot, even taller. And we think it was checking us out because it was down there hunting for dinner or for something to eat, because we ran the deer off when we walked down in there, and it was like he was mad because we spooked off the deer, and he was coming to see who we were or what was going on.
While filming Brian telling his story, we captured this on one of our audio recorders. 2, 1. After completing the interview, we searched around the Camp Hardwood site and found this. As we departed Camp Hardwood and journeyed back to base camp, our whole crew was taken back by the events of this campout. The whole drive home, I pondered the events that took place, questioning if Bigfoot was actually real. And I knew my investigation was far from over. A month later, the SBA team invited me to come along for another set of investigations in the Kiamichi Mountains. First, we met at the Talihina Bigfoot Museum, and I was able to learn about Bigfoot in North American history and the many individuals that dedicated their lives to research. Here, I would learn that Bigfoot was more than tinfoil hats and conspiracy theories, that there are thousands of identical sightings with photo, video, and footprint evidence, yet no decisive evidence that would close the case on these creatures' existence. Hopefully, we would get a glimpse of the big man that night during our investigation. In the cold December night, our vehicles would race to our destination. Many miles of blocking roads and backwoods areas, we finally reach our destination, Camp Hardwood. Upon arrival, we would set up audio equipment and search the area for clues. That night, we came up short and found nothing. The next morning, we received word from a witness who reported that Bigfoot was on their property.
Yeah, so when we first moved here in April, and it's nothing but like just a clearing in the woods. And one day my daughter was sitting on this log and she's just staring out in the woods. And at the time she was 10, she was almost 11. And I was calling her to come eat lunch, she wouldn't get up. And I thought that was weird. I was like, why is she not coming? And I was calling her, I kept getting closer and closer. And I said, what are you looking at? She looked back, she said, huh? Oh, I saw something. And I was waiting for it to come back out. And I was like, what? And she said, I saw something. It was about, I don't know if it was a bear or what. It was about the height of Daddy, which he's 6 foot tall. And it was kind of gray looking, gray or black. And it went behind a tree. I've been waiting for it to come back out. And I haven't seen it again. And I was like, oh, maybe it was Bigfoot. And that was just kind of a joke with us, right? And so, and after that we went to go to Tanya's museum. And so we ended off to go with her and talk with her. And she had thought a lot like we did. And we really like Tanya. She's a good friend of ours. So, we didn't really think of much of it. It said, well, maybe she saw that. Maybe it was a bear. Maybe it was a trick of the eyes, whatever. We weren't really like looking for anything. And we were currently living inside of our RV. And I can't remember anything weird happening other than just hearing like weird howls. And weird sounds in the woods, which we do have like wildcats. I know they make really weird sounds, but they sound different than this. Because it was loud. It was really loud. I mean, it was like, ooh, ooh, ooh. And it did that like 3 or 4 times.
Upon hearing this testimony, we moved to investigate the site. We quickly searched the property and began evaluating tree breaks that seemed to be creating a canopy, debating back and forth if it was natural occurrences or perhaps some creature intervention that was creating some sort of shelter. After interviewing this family and understanding the scope of their sightings, we decided that our investigation at this spot was completed. Upon completion of our investigation, we returned to base camp. Or so we thought until later on that night. While we were at base camp, the property owner called us and notified us that the dogs were worked up and that something was leaning against the house making noises. We moved to intercept. Upon arrival, we rolled onto the property with no headlights. A large creature, only hiding feet from where Shane was walking, burst out of the bushes at remarkable speeds, too fast to get a view of. Upon further investigation at night, we used a FLIR camera to capture very faint heat signatures in the distance of the tree line. Yet, still nothing definitive. In January of 2024, a man named Dean reached out to Brian to ask if he could tell us his eyewitness account in the Kiamichi wilderness. We sat down with Dean and had him tell us his story.
And I found out for sure that when it happened,
Okay.
I actually spoke with my mother and father about the incident. It never
Okay.
was talked about in the family after it happened, that what they knew of that evening.
Okay.
They didn't believe me what happened during the day. I was by myself with my beagle.
Okay.
In the woods behind our house, we were leasing from an old bootlegger, moonshine guy named Orville Westbrook. He's passed, wonderful guy. And there was a big fence 100 yards behind his rent home that we were staying in. There was 3 rent homes on the property, on his property there. He had a store right off Highway 3, about 5 miles west of Antlers. They call the community Darwin now. I don't remember that when I was young. But we lived there 3.5 years. And I was told my dad raised German short-haired bird dogs and hunted a lot. And he worked on the Indian Nation Turnpike at the toll booth. And he worked nights. And we were told, don't cross. They had a big chain link with, I mean, this was a newer fence. I thought, that's strange. It was tall, 10, 12 feet, big chain link. And we were told not to go through that fence on the property, nothing but woods behind this house. And I didn't know how much, but me and that dog, I dug a spot underneath the chain link and we'd crawl under it when nobody was watching, because it was 100 yards from the house, nobody could see us. And we'd run around back there and had done it multiple times. But had got caught and scolded, but still did it. And so one afternoon, and according to my parents, and I knew it was, I knew the year, but I was unsure. They said it had to be late October, early November of 1975. It was not long before they separated. And I'm out there, we're in the woods, just, I was playing Army or Indians or something, the dog's running around. He's out in front of me. And we're in the tree line. It's pretty heavy, woods there. And all of a sudden, the dog did something I'd never seen him do. He turned, yelped, and went by me like, somebody, done something to him, hauling back toward the house. He went by me, I looked back to where he come from, and standing there next to a cedar tree. Back then I didn't know what kind of tree it was, a bushy green tree, but a cedar tree. I realized later at Western Cedar was a man like I had never seen before. And I don't know how to explain this. I couldn't move. I couldn't talk. I'm just locked eyes with him. And he's just looking at me. And he's humongous, I had no frame of reference for what I was looking at other than it was a man of some kind. And I couldn't move, and he didn't move. And I remember he's just looking at me, looking down. And have you ever seen a dog when he's curious about something, he'll tilt his head? This thing did that. He tilted his head at me, showed me his teeth, it looked like a smile. Never moved, never made a noise. And probably, it seemed like an eternity because I'm frozen with fear, literally. He just took a step to the right behind the cedar and was gone. And then I could move all of a sudden, and I'm turning and running for the house, trying to run. I must have fell down 5 times to get to the fence to crawl under that spot we had dug out. Yeah. My legs just didn't want to work. So I run in and tell my mother, hey, I just seen a big man behind the house. He's naked. And she was like, I told you not to go back there. She whooped me, didn't believe me, I guess. Didn't say nothing. I go out, sitting on the porch, and I thought about Sambo, my beagle. He was my best buddy. We did everything together. Where's he at? Well, he's under the porch. He ain't coming out. So anyway, that evening, my dad was off that night. As just by chance. Window in our bedroom, and I've seen the house last year for the first time since I was a boy. My cousin owns the property now. The old house is still standing. It's the only structure on the property when I was a boy. Simple place, but I was about 12 feet from the window, and we'd go to bed. Curtains were pulled open, and my bed was an old army cot, and I'm across the room with my head even with the window laying down on my side looking, and from the top left corner of that window, and the old house set on a 2 or 3 cinder block foundation like they used to back in the old days,
Crawl space on it.
Right.
Yeah.
And from the top left corner, and I didn't have a measuring tape last year when I was in the house, but just standing out there and looking, it's 8 feet to the top corner of that window, somewhere around there. I wished I'd had a measuring tape with me, but I didn't expect to get to go over. I didn't know how she was even going to react to seeing me because I hadn't seen her so long. But yeah, she said, let's go over and look, I didn't tell her why until we got over there. I'd never told her,
the story.
Yeah, until that
Does
day.
someone live in the house now?
No, it's empty. They're opening a general store.
Oh, okay.
That's the plan. The family down there, my family members I got left, are opening a store there. So they were kind of fixing some stuff, some plumbing when I was there. Her younger brother had been there fixing some plumbing. But anyway, I got to go in, and I was pretty close. I thought 12 feet from the window, and just stepping it off there, it was around 12 feet. But anyway, this face that I had seen earlier in the day appears in my window. It's the same man, to me. And I immediately froze again. I couldn't move. I couldn't speak. My brother's feet are at the window across the room. He's on that wall that the window is. It's on the south side of the old house. He don't see it. He's still awake. We just went to bed. And it's probably 9:30 in the evening, usually about somewhere around then. But he's looking at me. He's laying on his side with his back to the wall, window at his feet. He's looking at me, and I guess he's seen the expression on my face because I remember him saying Dean, and I wanted to answer him.
Yeah.
But I couldn't answer. And my eyes aren't coming off the window, and because I was just frozen again. And so anyway, after he tried a couple times, he leaned up on the bed to look where I was looking, and he saw it. And it saw him at that point. It hadn't seen him. I know that because its eyes and his head turned a little bit. His eyes got big. He startled. My brother startled it because he didn't know he was there. He couldn't see over in that corner like this. My brother was up immediately, hollering, running to the hall, and he was running to our mother. Her room was just opposite of us with the bathroom in the center. And when he jumped, I could move. I don't know how to explain that, but all of a sudden I could move.
Yeah.
But I still couldn't speak. He's hollering. I'm right behind him. My father slept in the den because my younger sister, who wasn't very old then, she was premature, kind of weakly, she slept with mom in the other bedroom. Okay. My dad slept in that front den. He came to the doorway there in front of the bathroom in this little short hall. And I remember him, I thought I did, Like I said, in the state I was in,
sure.
I asked though later when I was 35, I finally asked him about it. And yeah, he remembered it. And they both said one thing: "We've never seen you boys so scared." But I remember Dad grabbing me by the shoulders, Mike speaking to my mother, and he said, "There's a black man with a beard at the window. There's a man at the window." And he's adamant about it. And I still use that description today because it's the only thing I could relate it to back then,
Definitely.
But Dad was there, and Dad was an avid outdoorsman, and he was in good shape. And I mean, he was a ball player and really fast on his feet. He got out quick. When I asked him about it, he got out there quick. In the house, there was nothing around the house for 100 yards to hide behind except a couple of trees.
Yeah.
And he never saw nothing. So I don't know how many seconds it would have took him to get to the back of the house, but not long. And my dad was avid hunter. He reloaded all of his shells, shotgun and rifle.
Mm-hmm.
And so he went out with a
ready to
weapon.
go.
He was ready to go.
Yeah.
And he got there quick. He told me, and he never saw nothing, never heard nothing. But that was my first encounter, and it was twice in one day. But the first was in broad daylight from, just guessing, Brian, 20, 25 feet at max, up close.
The team and I decided to go to Dean's childhood home to assess the window that he had his sighting. While being here at night, it was clear to us why the Bigfoot remained undetected, being it was pure darkness and no lighting. After Brian's arrival, we camped in a location of supposed Bigfoot sightings. It was a quiet night. The next day we woke up early, or at least some of us did. And we investigated the site to find any signs of Bigfoot.
Can't tell where the storm is 'cause I'm right in the middle of it. My direction is blurred and my compass is broke. God is the only way that I know. Still here where we left off. Pain's gotten better, but my wounds are still soft. Forgiveness has been sin. I don't really know we can be friends.
Brian, Doug, and I traveled down to Kiamichi to do a day investigation and interview Denny Coleman, a realtor based in Talihina, who had many encounters with the Sasquatch and heard from his clients about Bigfoot on their properties.
I'm just a man walking in the same boots of a man of great success. Came here to find what it is that's mine, then I'll take whatever is left. I'll ride my horse on the northwestern hills, chasing God's prettiest sunsets. Painted sky, orange and white, as the birds wind down, so do I.
I was out showing property with some clients one day, and we got to the cabin, and something had broke into the side of the cabin. Well, I called my broker up and told him it was his listing. So I called him up and told him and said, listen, I think a bear broke into the cabin. And so I took pictures and sent him the pictures so he could send his clients, let them know something broke in the cabin. And during that same time, after I took the pictures, I took the clients down to the creek. We get down to the creek down there, and we started getting this real pungent smell down there. And so the clients, they asked me, they said, do you think that's what broke in the trailer? I mean, in the cabin. And I said, possibly. So we left. Well, my broker, he goes back the next day, calls me up, says, hey, did you see them handprints? I told him, no, I didn't see any handprints. I just saw something broke, a bear broke into the cabin. And so he sends me the pictures, and there's these big handprints where you can see that something grabbed and tried to pull the tuber boards out. And so I went and got my pictures, my original pictures, and I blowed them up on the same tuber board. I'm looking at it, and sure enough, you could lightly see those fingerprints, full fingers, on those tuber boards, big fingers. And the only thing that I could come up with on that is that whatever did that had some type of oily skin, because the residue that it left on the tuber boards overnight darkened on there. So they had some type of oily skin. So then it made me start really thinking, when you go way back off-grid stuff, 2 or 3 miles back in there like that, you're going to have some types of experiences. I've been on properties where I've walked down a trail 2 miles in, coming out, there'd be a tree laying across. Not when you went in, but when you come out. There'd be a fresh tree laying right there. I've had clients that literally ran out of the woods because we heard one grunting down there on the other side of us, just pacing back and forth. Scared us to death. We run out, got out of there. I've never had a dangerous experience. I had one that was kind of close. I took a client out on 62 acres just north of Tallahena from Bengal, and we was on the 62 acres, and we pulled in on it, and behind us there was one. It was just whooping. I can't duplicate it, but it was just a frantic whoop behind us. And we're going down, and we're going to the creek because he wants to go down and see the creek. And he asked me, he said, what I think that was. I said, I don't really know. I said, there's something up there whooping. And so we get down to the creek, we look at the creek, he likes the creek and everything, and we're on our way back up. And on our way back up, we're in between the creek and my Land Rover. And this thing's whooping up there again. And it starts whooping, and it's like really loud, frantic whooping. And then all of a sudden, on the creek side, it sounds like a 2-year-old child down there crying. And so we both figure out we're in between this mama and baby. So we're in between that. And we get in the Land Rover and we get on out of there. Well, he did buy the property, but he sold it because he started having experiences down there, and he didn't want to stay down there. Yeah.
Is that common with your clients? That the ones you sell to is?
No, it's not real common. I mean, it's I mean, it's just in the last 8 years, probably maybe 8 or 10 experiences.
Here's a photo that Denny took. He believes it was a child Bigfoot in a tree. In 2022, the book Valley of the Apes was written about NAWAC's investigation in the Kiamichi wilderness. The author, Michael Mays, former board chairman of NAWAC, had this to say about Bigfoot.
Yeah, the mission was really simple. It was to obtain concrete evidence. We believe that this animal, and that's what we always believed it to be, we believed it to be a primate, likely a North American ape of some sort, was likely rare, possibly endangered, and in danger of extinction due to habitat loss. Not because of hunting or anything like that. If that was going to be a problem for them, it would have been a problem long before now, and it would be a known species. But everyday habitats getting eaten up. And so at the time, we were seeking to collect a specimen in order to prove that this is a real legitimate species of animal.
It makes you wonder about the many men who collectively and actively hunted Bigfoot from the years 2010 to 2018. They were looking for a species of animal, potentially one that makes noises like this. David Wilbanks, author of Kiamichi Bigfoot, Investigating the Oklahoma Sasquatch, and the Shopee, Terror Has a Name, had this to say about the subject.
Let's just kind of branch out from there and talk a little bit about Kiamichi. So let's start with this first question. Is Bigfoot in the Kiamichi Mountains?
Oh, yeah, I think so. And other places. I'm not going to limit it to that. It goes, and I know the next question usually is how many do you think there are and things like that. And, I've got good friends that look into this who think that there is a lot of them. I'm kind of on the other end of that. I think there's a relatively few of them, and just once in a while they get careless and get spotted by somebody. I think they are more than likely, keep in mind, all of these are just my opinions, and I try to base my opinions on the evidence that I've seen. But the evidence I have seen and collected lead me to believe they're relatively small groups that are very elusive and highly nomadic throughout these ranges and sub-ranges of the Kiamichis and Ouachita Mountains and such. But I don't believe that.
We traveled down the Kiamichi on September 12th of 2024 to interview Jimmy Williams, a local Bigfoot researcher, as well as do one more day of field research. Do you believe Bigfoot is here in the Kiamichi Mountains?
Oh yeah, definitely. 100%. There's without a doubt. There's just so much evidence, plus my own seeing it with my own eyes. It's, yeah, without a doubt, they're here. That one night, me and my dad were out there just shooting the breeze, just talking about cool stuff, space, physics, things like that. And all of a sudden, it's hard to explain if I heard something or felt something, but I told my dad, hold on. And then we hear this, whoa-hoo! I heard, whoa! That's a different sound. It kind of sends chills up your spine almost, it's one of those hair standing up kind of deals. And And then about an hour later, we heard something stomping in the woods, which would be on my left side. And so we went out that way, and we were looking and looking, and then my flashlight finally landed on it. And he was about 6.5 to 7 foot tall, kind of hard to judge, and he was about 30 feet away, had a long, dark brown, greasy hair. I remember it being greasy because of the way the light kind of shined off of it, kind of reflected off of it. And he was moving away, so I only saw the back of him, and I was like, oh my gosh. And so I got my phone and trying to open up my phone and get the photo app up on there. And by the time I got that up there, he had either ducked down and was just kind of moving in a hunched way, because there's a lot of brush up there. So I actually saw him from about close to the middle of his back up. I didn't see the legs or anything. And so he either ducked down or he just went around a tree or something. I don't know how he got away, but he got away. And my dad never got to see him. Of course, he said my dad has real bad eye vision, and he never actually saw him. We could hear him. And at one point, I said, hey, if you want to come back over here to our camp, we got something maybe you can eat. And we heard a pause in the footsteps, and then it continued to go. So he may have thought about it for a minute, but yeah, he wanted to get away. And then coming back, me and my dad didn't hear this, but later we saw it we heard it on the recording that I'd been making. I'd been filming that whole entire time. A whoop sound. And to me, I think it may have been something either really close or really far away, but just loud enough to where we wouldn't be able to hear it. But whoever was over there making the wahoo sounds originally may have been communicating with whoever was with them. Hey, they're turning around, let's go back. But I have no idea. That's just my guesstimation there on that part. But yeah, that's basically what it was.
Here's another piece of audio Jimmy captured on another occasion. After completing our interview with Jimmy, we headed out to Camp Hardwood. We had no idea what to expect upon this trip. Upon our arrival, we immediately heard distant shouts. We decided to reply to those shouts with similar calls. After giving our reply, the calls stopped altogether. My companion and I heard something very quickly move through the woods and hit a tree, knocking it over. For an hour, we had items thrown at us. We heard very faint wood knocks and whoops in the distance. Faintly, we could see eye shine coming from bushes, and as we would flash our flashlights onto them, they would disappear and wander away. In very close proximity, we began to hear what we believe to have been primate grunts, sounds that were not inviting and that very clearly wanted us to go. Then the decision was made that we were going to leave Camp Hardwood and head home, out of fear for our very own safety. Almost a year ago, I was here in the Kiamichi wilderness, wondering if Bigfoot even existing was a real possibility. But through this experience, I became a believer, and now wonder, how many of these things exist? How long have they been here? Now that I became a believer in Bigfoot, I now know he is the king of the Kiamichis.